Hey guys, my name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. Before we get underway with the 5-minute tour, a couple quick announcements. First off, as some of you may have seen, last Thursday, me and a group of friends live streamed a Pathfinder game. And unfortunately, it was pointed out to me that the audio on that live stream was subpar. Since then, we removed the live stream, downloaded the original video, corrected the audio, and re-uploaded it. Today, we're here to make the announcement that the Lordly Caliber Pathfinder live stream will continue. However, first we will edit the live stream's audio before posting it to our YouTube channel somewhere in the neighborhood of Sunday mornings instead of Thursday night. This brings me to our second statement. We've been a channel for somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 9 weeks, and I feel for only being around for a few weeks, there's been a substantial amount of growth in this channel. Yes, there have been some setbacks, but on the whole, I feel we've done a pretty good job in the short time that Black Dragon Gaming has been a channel establishing ourselves. To celebrate this and to help grow our channel, spread the plague if you will, so that we can do more interesting things and eventually have the money to look more professional doing them, we're going to be announcing a giveaway in the next couple weeks. I'm not entirely sure what the giveaway will be, but it's going to be something that the channel does on a fairly regular basis to give back to the community that has allowed me to become part of it. Now, with no further ado, on to the video. Today's episode of the 5-minute tour is coming to us by request. If in this series or in any other series this channel is running, present or future, you have a request about what you'd like to see covered, feel free to throw it in the comments and I will certainly move it to the top of the list. Today, we're going to Mendev. Mendev is a nation of crusaders. Along the nation's western border sits the World Wound. We'll talk more about that region in detail in a later episode. For now, suffice to say, big hole in the earth, demons coming out of it, spreading all over the place. Mendev exists to keep the World Wound in check. Mendev is now in the middle of the 4th Holy Crusade into the World Wound. The 4th Crusade has led to a lot of division within Mendev, partially because this latest crusade has seen a massive number of mercenaries, outcast, roguish types, so-called low Templars, coming to Mendev in numbers to match the amount of pious crusaders that come from all across Golarion to battle demons. Mendev is ruled by Queen Galfrey. Unfortunately, Queen Galfrey's leadership doesn't really stretch past her fortress capital of Nerosian. Beyond those walls, the various commanders in control of towns, cities, and armies interpret what she says however they want to. Some of them taking more liberties than others, some of them leading with iron fists. Couple this with the rise of the Low Templars, and you have a situation of mass division across the entire region. Much of Mendev's population has come from these crusaders who've traveled all across the world to battle demons and ended up putting roots down in the region, but that's not entirely the case. Many of Mendev's natives are descendants of people whose families lived here long before the Crusaders arrived. These people are natives of a nation called Iobaria, which is just to the east of Avestan. The Iobarians present day tend to be treated as second-class citizens because these guys still practice an ancient druidic faith. In a world where demons actively invade Mendev surreptitiously, causing chaos, disrupting leadership, and in general, being demons, the Iobarians are often looked at with distrust by the more zealous crusaders. And by that notion, many Iobarians have been burned at the stake in Mendev for these heretical beliefs. This essentially sums up the Third Mendevian Crusade, which focused more on purging the region of heretics than it did fighting off the denizens of the World Wound. The rift between native Iobarians and Crusaders goes all the way back to when the region of Avestan, which is now the World Wound, was its own independent nation. However, we will talk about that in a later video. Present day, Crusaders still arrive on a weekly basis by boat to the nation of Mendev. During the First Mendevian Crusade, the crusade where the nation of Mendev was formed, these boats were full of good aligned warriors who generally felt it in their hearts that it was their duty to come to Mendev and fight these demons. Like we said before, by now the Fourth Crusade, in addition to the Holy Warriors, you've got plenty of lowlights showing up as well. So many, in fact, that many southern nations see the Mendevian Crusades as a convenient dumping ground for dissidents, thugs, criminals. Think Game of Thrones, where they send Jon Snow to the wall. It's the same idea. If you were to break the law in, say, Anduin or Taldor, it stands to reason that a local ruler might give you the option to go up by boat to Mendev and fight in the Crusades. Best case scenario, life in exile. Worst case scenario, a death sentence, as opposed to rotting in a cell somewhere or being hanged publicly. Now, most of us would say that from the GM's point of view, Mendev exists for the party who wants to play a bunch of paladins and clerics and set out fighting demons. While that completely makes sense and is a perfectly rational, reasonable way to use Mendev, I think we can go a little deeper than that. In my opinion, if I were to send adventurers to Mendev, I would send them to Mendev to prove that lawful good is not always the nicest of alignments. When we think lawful good, we think order and justice, paladins in shiny plate mail with glowing golden capes and flaming swords and things like that. And Mendev shows that that's just not how every lawful good person acts. That zealous urge to purge the world of all evil, if twisted but a little, can mean the difference between rooting out a rogue demon and destroying it and burning a bunch of innocent people at the stake for crimes they did not commit. Mendev is also the region in Pathfinder that I feel screams the loudest that paladins should be, like in 5th edition, any alignment. When we think paladins, we think the champions of the noble cause. We think heroes that stand up in front of impossible odds and save the day. And in Pathfinder, traditionally, and by the rules as well, all paladins must be lawful good. This place demonstrates that someone who might worship a lawful good god, who might on paper be lawful good, is still prone to evil actions, and he may need to be overthrown by the lawful neutral guy who shows up and realizes that the lawful good guy has become too corrupt to deserve his position, or the chaotic good guy or the neutral good guy who sees that all these people are suffering at the lash of a lawful good character, thus becoming champions of their own alignment, of their own faith, in and of themselves, and in my opinion, that deserves paladin status as much as any lawful good paladin ever had. Of course, on the other side of that token, if we've got 4 players who are bound and determined to play lawful good paladins and crusade across the world, Mendev is the place to send them. Smite Evil is very powerful, especially when used against something like an evil outsider, where it does more damage than, say, an evil human. So if you want to feed your paladins demons and want your players to feel like victorious heroes as these waves of monsters fall beneath their weapons, send them to Mendev. They'll probably have a blast. Players who are all lawful good paladins will also most likely find their faith tested when they come to this region and encounter corrupt commanders, corrupt paladins, people that are lawful good and maybe even worship the same deity as the players, but aren't exactly holding up their faith. If you've got a player who's read all the splat books about his faith and knows every single solitary facet of it, let him roleplay against a member of the faith that has become corrupted. Maybe have one of them go to trial for their crimes, or maybe have that NPC send the paladin player character to trial for his quote-unquote crimes, aka threatening to expose this corrupt lawful good character. The possibilities here are endless. Now, everywhere in the Inner Sea region, everywhere on Galarion has some equivalent on planet Earth, and Mendev's is pretty glaringly obvious. This is a Crusader state from the Middle Ages. On planet Earth, during the Crusades, 2 faiths clashed against one another. In Pathfinder, 2 faiths are clashing against each other as well, except this time, there's actual demons running around. So have you ever been to Mendev before? Ever done any adventuring here? Ever GM'd for a group here? If so, or if you have a request for the next region you'd like us to cover, throw it in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next lore video drops next Friday.